Good morning, everybody. Welcome, Bruchim Aboyim. Today's class is dedicated by the Menachem and Batya Abrams in honor of their beloved children, Mazel, Yeshaya, in honor of their children, Mazel, Yeshua, Ayala, Rafal Tzemach, and David Gavriel. Arichis Yamim V'Shanim Toivus, and all the blessings, B'Geshem, B'Ruach, B'Toiv HaNidav HaNigla. Thank you very much. We began last class a new Maamar, the Maamar of the Rebbe that was said on Purim Tovshin Tezayin, Purim 5/7/16 or 1956. The theme of the first class was, the Chazal say, the Medrash says, that all of the Moyadim, all of the festivals, all of the holidays are going to be nullified in the future when Mashiach comes, excluding Purim. On Purim it says in the Megillah that the days of Purim will never be removed from the Jewish people, and the memory of it, the memory of Purim will never be eliminated from the seed, from the children of the Jewish people. So on this, the Medrash says that Purim is unique, that none of the one moyed, the one holiday that will not be batel. And this is the famous question: Torah is eternal, and if the Torah and the mitzvahs are eternal, how could the Medrash say such a thing? And on this, he gives the answer, and the answer is that it doesn't mean that there will not be the other holidays. It means that their potency, their relevance, their power will be nullified, like lighting a candle in the middle of the day. Because of the great joy, the abundant joy, because of the bliss and the goodness, and the tova and the simcha, the happiness that's going to vibrate during the time of the redemption, the time of the Gula. So it's the power of the Moyadim L'Simcha, that joy won't be felt, it won't be experienced in a significant way. Again, like Shraga B'Tiera Ma'ahani, like lighting a candle in the middle of the day, even though at night it's not only significant, but it's extremely significant and saves, I wanted to say saves the day, but I guess here you have to say saves the night. On this he had a question, because the Medrash gives another opinion about Yom Kippur. And the second opinion is that Yom Kippur also won't be batel, because the expression in Torah by Yom Kippur is chukas olam, it's an eternal statue. If the whole vart is mitzad simcha, so then how does Yom Kippur b'chlal come into the picture? That you have to negate it. The whole union of Yom Kippur is a separate union. Yom Kippur is not competing with simcha. Sukkahs, Pesach, Shavuos are called moyadim l'simcha. V'titin lanu, we say in davening, v'titin lanu Hashem Elokeinu ba'ava, moyadim l'simcha. We don't say that on Yom Kippur. On the contrary, the mitzvah of Yom Kippur is v'nisim es nafshei seichem. You should afflict the soul. So it's l'chatchila not in that category, it's not in that genre of mitzvahs that now you have to negate that even with asid lover, when there's going to be so much simcha, this won't be nullified. To say this is exactly what he wants to say. This is exactly his point, that Yom Kippur won't be nullified because it's not one of these holidays that's going to be eclipsed when Mashiach comes, because it's not about simcha. That's what he wants to say. Then he says, hey, should have said about Rosh Hashanah also. Rosh Hashanah is also not an inyan of simcha. And then also you don't need a pasuk, chukas olam. And the first opinion holds that Yom Kippur will be batel. So that's also strange, according to this. So this, he went into a whole explanation that everything physically comes from a higher source. Right? Everything in Gashmis is nishtalsha from Ruchnias, which we spoke about at length. So when we speak about the goodness of the joy when Mashiach comes, and all the physical benefits that will be, and the properties that will all the physical dimensions of Mashiach's coming, even higher than in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. It's because of a spiritual state of consciousness. It's because of a spiritual transformation. What's called in the language of Chassidus Gili Elikus. There's going to be a unique level of Gili Elikus, revelation of godliness, even deeper than the one that existed in the first Beis HaMikdash.
What's going to be when Mashiach comes and everybody is going to be already transformed and everything? So there will be no transformation anymore. It will be just in a state of.
Maybe there'll be even. You're saying what's going to be with it won't be transformation. It's a different type, because truth is infinite. So relative to a higher level of infinity, you need transformation, but it's a different type of transformation. It's not darkness to light, it's within light itself.
So you promise it's not going to be boring?
No, it won't be boring. Don't worry about it. In many ways, the transformation is deeper, because the transformation from darkness to light is it's an obvious necessity. The ability to transform light, because relative to a higher level, it's also dark, requires a lot more subtlety, and maybe for a sensitive soul, that can be, it's a very profound experience. There's an expression in Kabbalah that Keser Elyon, expression Keser Elyon, Afal Gav de Iu Oir Tzachom Tzuchtzuch Ukam Hu Kadam Ilas Ilas Vasibis Hasibis, which means the light of Keser, even though it's shining and so full of light, it's considered darkness relative to the source. So even when we talk about infinity, every level of light, even as infinite as it is, you won't be bored, don't worry. Nothing to compare it to. Don't worry.
Huh?
Don't worry about it.
No?
Darfst du steigen. Once you understand that it's an inyan of Gili Elikus, so now we understand that the Gili Elikus of Purim is such that even Lagabe, the Gilui, the revelation when Mashiach comes, the power of Purim is still going to be potent and relevant and forceful. About Yom Kippur, there's two opinions, because Yom Kippur, Yom HaKippurim is Kippurim, it's like Purim. So on one level, it's like Purim, and that's the opinion, that the revelation of Yom Kippur is going to be still powerful, even in the presence of the revelation of Mashiach. And the other opinion says it's only Kippurim. Yom Kippur is only Kippurim, it's like Purim, but it's not Purim. And therefore that will also be nullified. What does it mean it'll be nullified? That the Gilui Elikus of Yom Kippur, the revelation of Yom Kippur, will be like a candle in daylight. And he says, even in Nigla you see this concept, that there's things Yom Kippur doesn't atone for, and yet Purim atoned for it because of the complete transformation. That was a very brief summation of what we learned. More details you can go back to the first class, and now we're going to continue Siv Beis chapter 2, which is page 120. V'tzarech lahavin mailas hagilui de'alakus de Purim. Umay mein yonim de Purim shepalu giliyah shafilu la'asid lava yidavar gadol shezawi in shaloi berach lagabi kol shara moedim alamayla filim yem HaKippurim. This itself now has to be understood. What's the greatness of the divine revelation of Purim, and what is it about Purim that happened on Purim that created such a light, such a revelation of truth, that even after Mashiach's coming, when the world will be repaired, when there'll be the ultimate tikkun, the ultimate fixing and healing, still Purim will be celebrated as a unique day, as a uniquely transcendent day, way beyond every other holiday, and according to one opinion, even beyond Yom Kippur. Yuvan behekdim, we explained that this is pshat in the Medrash, and therefore it's not a contradiction to Torah not going through a change. Torah is one of the 13 principles of faith. What is taka now, the Inyan taka? What is it about Purim?
Where are you on 120?
The second paragraph? Yeah. It's Perik Beis. You see Ois Beis. V'yuvan, 4 lines from the beginning of the second paragraph, page 120. V'yuvan behekdim klolos achilik ben Purim l'chol ha'mayadim. So for this, we need to introduce Yuvan. This will be understood behekdim, but with a hagdama, with an introduction of the difference of Purim and the other Yamim Tovim. One of the general differences. It's a very obvious and general difference, and that's in terms of the timing. All of the Yamim Tovim were established. Of course, they were given by Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. So they were established in the Midbar, when the Jewish people have just become a nation and received the Torah and built a Mishkan. And they were created around life in Eretz Yisrael with a central epicenter, a Mishkan, or later a Beis HaMikdash, when Shlomo Melech built the Beis HaMikdash. So it's connected to Zman HaBayis, to the time when the Jewish people are dwelling in their organic, natural habitat, their homeland, with that's called Zman HaBayis, the time of the Beis HaMikdash. When the Jewish people were Ishtachas Gafne V'tachas Tenase, that's the expression by Shlomo Melech. Everyone dwelled, each one under his vine or his fig tree, which is an expression in Tanakh of saying everyone was rooted in their organic space. Yeshua ben Nun divided Eretz Yisrael between all of the tribes. Right? We say in Musaf, we say on Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, we speak about the fact that you should plant us within our border. It's an interesting expression. You usually don't plant people. You plant trees, right? But the truth is, a person is also planted. Just like a tree. We're not physically planted, Baruch Hashem. We can move around. But v'siteinu b'gvulenu means that you have roots. You're rooted in something, b'gvulenu, and you're rooted in your boundaries. In other words, people who have healthy boundaries, they're planted somewhere. This is where I belong. If you pull me out from here, I'm not doing you a favor, and I'm not doing myself a favor, because it's like, tell the tree, come here, I got to talk to you. We have an interesting conversation here. So you bring the tree over, and what happens? It's dead, right? It's a very powerful idea. V'siteinu b'gvulenu, you know who you are, you're rooted, literally rooted, the word is rooted, you're planted, b'gvulenu. So that's ish tachas gafne v'ish tachas teinase. It's interesting. I saw this, I think, in an article by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he said, what's the opposite of Kedusha? Hamavdil ben kodesh lechoil. Right? What's choil in Hebrew? What does choil in Hebrew mean? Sand. We translate choil as the mundane, right? Vachadik. But really choil means samti azaracha choil hayam, like the sand of the beach, of the sea, of the ocean. So choil is sand. Bein hachulas, between the sands. The story of Masechtas Shabbos, there was somebody who came to Nuj Hillel on Friday when he was in the bathhouse, and he asked him all these questions, and one of them was about the eyes of the Chinese, of the Trutas, the Tamadan, why their eyes are very round or very soft. It's two explanations in Rashi. So he said because the sandstorms, so they were created that their eyes should be protected. Bein hachaylas. So why is that the antithesis of kedusha? Because in chayil, in sand, you can't plant anything. You have earth and soil. It's muksher, it's fertile to plant. You try planting something on the beach in the sand, and then a wind comes. What's it called? Gone with the wind. Everything is gone with the wind. So the opposite of kedusha is not profanity. The opposite of kedusha is you're rootless. I don't know if there's such a word.
Inability to procreate or whatever.
Yeah, rootlessness. There's no root, and therefore, I'm here today, I'm there tomorrow. There's no visiteinu b'gvulenu. So that's describing generally as man abayis ish tachas gafne v'tachas teinasai. For l'chei nikrayim, and that's why the Yamim Tovim are all based on agriculture. In other words, it was based on a system where Jewish people are farming, they're growing their land, they're settling their land, Yishuv ha'aretz, that tachas gafne, literally, gafne teinasi is not just a metaphor. The fig tree and the vine and the fig tree, the system of Yamim Tovim is all about the fig trees and the grape trees and all of the other trees and all of the grain, etc., and the vegetables and the fruits. It's called Moed Ha'aviv, Chag HaKotzer, Chag HaAsif. In Chumash, the Yamim Tovim are associated with the various processes of agriculture. You have Moed Ha'aviv. Aviv is when the grain starts becoming ripe. in the month of Nisan, usually April. That's where you have the carbon oimer, the first carbon coming from the new grain, the barley, which was the second day of Pesach, and then we have Sfiras oimer. Then you have Chag HaKotzer. Later, 2 to 7 weeks later, when you have Chag HaKotzer, the holiday of harvest, when you could start harvesting. And then finally, after leaving everything out during the summer to dry, Chag HaAsif, before the new winter season in Sukkot time, was the holiday celebrating the gathering. Asif is the gathering of all of the fruits and all of the grain and all the vegetation and produce into the silos, into the storage houses under a roof, where it would remain for the whole season, to be able to nurture the family or the community, or if it was used for revenue, for business, whatever it is. So why is this important? Because Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot represented that relationship with earth, that connection with earth, that organic connection between the person and his field, his home, his gardens, his farm, or her farm, etc. So it's not just the physical element, it's when the Jewish people were in that state. Mashenkin Purim is the one holiday, Shayach Lizman HaGolos. It's the one holiday in Tanakh that was created Dafka in Galus, in exile. The entire all the circumstances that brought about Purim were circumstances that came because of Galus, because of the exile of the Jewish people, the alienation of the Jewish people, the fact that they were uprooted from their organic homes, the fact that the tree was severed from its roots, which usually trees don't survive that way. You know, you can maybe artificially do something here and there, but we all know you cut roses, you bring them home for Shabbos, it's gewaldig, but after a few days you need a lot of eitzes in order to keep it alive, because it doesn't have that natural flow. The whole Purim happened because the Jewish people were under the jurisdiction, under the tyranny of Achashverosh, and over there was a Haman, and Haman told Achashverosh, "Mefuzed and mefeired bein ha'amim." These are parasites. They don't have a place. They're exiled between everybody, and they want to eat. They take everything from. In other words, they don't have their own place, their own homeland. They're mefuzed and mefeired bein ha'amim, and they're not loyal to you. So the whole Purim happened, Tafke and Galus, and you have that in the Tanakh. All the Bayadim are in Tanakh. The one holiday, Megillas Esther, is the one holiday that was written, that was experienced outside of Eretz Yisrael. No, we're talking about the 3 Moedim L'Simcha from Torah are called Aviv, Chag Aviv, Chag HaKotzer, Chag HaAsif. Now, the way the Torah identifies it is based on agriculture. No, it's called Chag Aviv. Aviv means Av. Rashi says that the grain, it starts becoming ripe. Yeah, spring. So Purim was created in Galus. The Purim Akati Avdei Achashverosh Shana. The Gemara says in Megillah, Daf Yudalad, why don't we say Hallel on Purim? Chanukah, you say Hallel. Yom Tovim, you say Hallel. Purim, you should for sure say Hallel. And one of the reasons the Gemara gives there in Megillah is because Akati Avdei Achashverosh Shana. We are still the servants of Achashverosh, slaves of Achashverosh. In Hallel, you say Hallelujah, Hallelu, Avdei Hashem. Says the Gemara, V'loi Avdei Achashverosh. So even after everything of Purim, they were still under the regime and the government, the monarchy of Achashverosh. It was a Gevaldik Knes, but Achashverosh was the boss. The great miracle was that Achashverosh was on our side. Mordechai was appointed to be prime minister or viceroy, second in command. Esther's glory as the queen came to the fore, and her Jewishness came to the fore, but all in the palace of Achashverosh. Akati Avdei Achashverosh Shana. Where other holidays the Jewish people had that independence, they were Avdei Hashem, not Avdei Achashverosh, so they say Hallel. That's what the Gemara explains in Maseches Megillah. The general difference is Esther. בזמן גזירס המון הלאחרי זה בזמן הנס פורים ויש נעמיים במצב כפי שהיה בזמן הבית שאז נקרא כנסת ישראל היפה בנשים ובשמש הוא השם רחל שעשה יפס טויה ויפס מרה. The two eras in Jewish history are represented by two separate names. Esther and Rachel. Esther and Rachel, Chazal say, are not just individual names of important women in our history. The Jewish people have these two names. Sometimes we're called Esther, and sometimes we're called Rachel. So he says the time of Purim represents a time when the Jewish people are called Esther. And that's why Esther really embodied the zeitgeist of Purim. It's called Megillas Esther. It's not even called Megillas Mordechai or Megillas Mordechai ve Esther. It's called Megillas Esther. It's not just Esther the person, of course Esther the person, but Esther embodies a certain energy that exists then. During the time of the decree of Haman, and even afterwards, during the miracle, after the decree. And then there's the state of the Jewish people at the time of the Bayis, the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and then their name is Rachel. About Rachel, it says in Chumash, she was Yifas Toyar, v'Yifas Mara, right? Parshas Vayetze, Rachel Hoysa, Eine Leia Rakes, v'Rachel Hoysa, Yifas Toyar, v'Yifas Mara. Rachel was Yifas Toyar, and Yifas Mara. Toyar means the physique was beautiful, and Mara is the countenance, the look, the Mara. We'll soon see the two expressions. And that's the time the Jewish people are called in Shir Hashirim, Hayafa Banashim, the most beautiful, the Sheinste von Freya, the most beautiful of women. Expression in Shir Hashirim is, we'll soon discuss, Im loy seidi lach Hayafa Banashim. If you don't know most beautiful, most commonly of women where to go, he tells them where to go in the beginning of Shir Hashirim. So he says that's an expression. Hayafa Banashim. It's an expression. Shir Hashirim is a metaphor. Ani ledoidi v'doidi li. For the two who are so connected to each other. So the title is Hayafa Banashim. That's represented by Rachel, who was the quintessential paradigm of Yifas Tayar, Yifas Mar. Hainu, what are we talking about? Shebizman, Purim Knesset Yisrael, b'mayim ed'matzu, k'may bizman agalos, she'einu b'mayim ed'matzu of the Yifas Tayar, v'Yifas Mar, k'may Hayafa Banashim. This beauty that we're talking about, Yifas Tayar, v'Yifas Mar, Yafa Banashim, the time of Purim, which was a time of galos, this beauty was concealed. It's not manifested. Al Zen Nemar, on this, the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, the first chapter, Perek Aleph pasuk is Im loy seidi la chayafa banashim. Over there in the beginning of Shir Hashirim, as I said, it's a metaphor. The bride, or who would be the bride, who wants to be the bride, turns to the shepherd. Right? Shir Hashirim happens in the spring, and it happens in Eretz Yisrael. Shlomo HaMelech writes it. And it's the story of the two who meet and they begin to develop a contact. And it's very difficult. It's on and off and on and off, and there's alienation, and then they rediscover it, so like 5 times back and forth. It's a very intense story, Shashem, a very beautiful story. So she turns to him and says, where can I find you? Where can I find the shepherd? And the shepherd responds, Im lo seidi lach hayafa banashim tzii lach beikvei hatzayin uri'iyas g'di yosayach al mishkan hasarayim. If you don't know most beautiful of women where to go, so follow the footsteps of the flock, and you'll bring your goats and shepherd them by the dwelling places of the shepherds. Now obviously it's a cryptic pasuk and there's a lot of different interpretations here. Here we're going to see one of the spiritual interpretations. But he's describing a situation of loy seidi lachayafa banashim. This most beautiful of woman does not know where to go. She doesn't know. That's what exile means. Exile is not just a physical experience. Physically you could be in exile, but you're not. There was once a meeting in Russia in 1910. Chaim Brisker was there, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe was there. So he got up, he gave a famous drush, and he said, the gufim sind gegangen in Golus, nicht the neshamas. The bodies of the Jewish people were sent to the Golus, not their souls. The souls are never in Golus. Golus is not just a physical thing of geography. It's a state of consciousness, right? Even Jews who are living in Eretz Yisrael, they say in davening, Mipnei chateinu golinu me'artzeinu. What's the golinu me'artzeinu? How could you lie? I could be in Eretz Yisrael, I could be in Yerushalayim, but it's a state of Golus. It's an inner state of Golus. That's golinu me'artzeinu. So, Seidi lachayafa banoshim. I don't know where to go. I don't know. So, tzilach bikvei atzayin, I have to follow the footsteps I'm following footsteps. Silach b'kviatzan. Here in the Maamar, he's saying a whole deeper taich in the pasuk. Im lo yseidi lach hayafa banashem. If you're not aware of your own beauty, it's not just im lo yseidi lach hayafa banashem. If you don't know most beautiful of women where to go, let me tell you where to go. In other words, yafa banashem is almost like in parentheses. It's almost a way of calling you. No, that's what you don't know. Im lo yseidi lach hayafa banashem. You don't have das, you don't have awareness of your beauty. Esther says, the yafa, your beauty, is not known to you. You don't know about it. Or even if you know about it intellectually, you don't have das in it. You don't have connection to it. This is the beginning of all galus. The beginning of all galus is when you're robbed from that innate sense of malchus, that innate sense of royalty, that innate sense of dignity. We sometimes, in our coping mechanisms or complete inability to understand what people need, call it selfishness, narcissism. But it's the opposite of that. It's what allows you to be selfless. It's what allows you to be non-narcissistic. It's what allows you to be functioning. It's what allows you to have relationships. The moment the person is alienated from their own yoifi, from their own inner sense of dignity, of value, which what becomes, this is an expression, become kaskupa hanidreses, like a doormat that's made for people to step on, to go into the house. That's not humility. That's self-destruction. It's the opposite of humility. Humility is the greatest prerequisite for growth. And this is what destroys it. It demolishes. So, imloi seidi lachayafa banashim, there comes a time where you look in the mirror, the spiritual mirror, and you don't see yourself as Rachel. Yifas Torah, Yifas Mana. I don't know my own beauty. I doubt it. And I'm not talking I doubt it intellectually, on paper, am I beautiful? I'm not talking about that. I mean, that's a separate Indian. It's not the sugya of the Maamar. We're talking about doubt that's rooted in could be rooted, chas v'shalom, in the DNA of the person, or at least in their own perception of their DNA. In other words, it's sometimes so deep that it's unconscious, that it guides my life without me knowing that it guides my life. You know, when we're not aware of forces inside of us that guide our life, it doesn't mean they don't exist. It means that they exist in a more powerful way. Because if I'm conscious of it, at least, I could monitor it, right? When I'm not conscious of the enemy, there's nobody to monitor, so I could just go eat breakfast. When really it's wreaking havoc. It's a complete control. It's so in control that it even hijacked my awareness. So it controls everything. The last security barrier, which is awareness, is also gone. It took that over. Oh no, there's nothing wrong. Everything is fine. Baruch Hashem. So now it's completely inside the person, and it's literally causing them to decompose. That's lo yseidi lachayafa banashim. There comes a time where lo yseidi lachayafa banashim, the person does not have that inner das. That das is the visceral awareness. Das is not intellectual knowledge. Right? This chachma bin and this das is the visceral consciousness of the yafa banashim. Now, if I'm not yafa, now my whole life has a different trajectory. Now I have to live in a way that it's at least somebody should say I'm beautiful, because I don't know it. So at least maybe you'll know it. So now I could become the quintessential people's pleaser, or I could become the quintessential person who's constantly dancing around, and my postures are changing from minute to minute, simply to be able to feel some beauty, some value, some validation, or another billion ways of it expressing itself and manifesting itself. But the common denominator is, there's no seidi lach. You don't know who you really are. And therefore, I'm not stepping into life. I'm waiting for you to tell me how to step into life. Does anybody relate to what I'm talking about? You're all looking at me as I'm the only Meshugana here in this room.
As far as Meshuggah is not. Relate.
So that's the inyan. V'oz nikras knas Yisrael b'shem Esther. Why is the name Esther? Parshas Esther means concealment. Something is concealed. The word Hester, but it's something else. The Gemara says in Megillah Daf Yud Gimel, Esther yirakroikus hoisa. Shezau hepech inyan an yefi. The Gemara says that the fact that Esther, Achashverosh, was so taken by Esther was a chiddush. The Megillah even, why? Because Esther yirakroikus hoisa. Esther Her face, her color was Yirakreikus. Yirakreikus means greenish, yellowish, Yarak.
Like Iranian Jews.
Elamai, the Gemara says, Chut shel chesed mashachallah. Rashi says there was a special, the Gemara says, Chut shel chesed, there was a special chut, a thread of grace that was extended over her. In other words, al piteva, naturally, if you would look at Esther Yirakreikus saya. Why is the Gemara trying to say this? So he says, spiritually, it's bringing out a point. You look at yourself and you say, I'm a Yirakreikus, I'm yellowish, I'm greenish. In other words, that's the matzav of Leisedi L'Chayafa B'Nashim. Rachel never doubted that she was a Yifas Mara. She had a security in the relationship with Yaakov. You see in Chumash, Rachel had a certain security in the relationship. Leah struggled in the relationship. Am I his wife? Am I not his wife? For good reason, because he wanted Rachel. Right? Leah struggled. She named her kids Reuven because Hashem saw my pain. Shimon, Hashem heard my pain. Levi, because now God is now my husband will finally be with me. Yehuda, now I can be thankful, grateful. Yisachar, Yashchar, Zvulun, now my husband is going to live with me. Everything was security in the relationship. However you want to explain it on any level, there obviously is deep, a lot deeper levels. But there was a struggle here. Rachel had a baby. She had a baby, Yosef. It was right away. Yosef Hashem li ben Ach. I'm going to have another child. The question of the relationship with Rachel was not a question. Spiritually, what that means is she never doubted Yifas Torah Yifas Mara. When I'm questioning a relationship, I'm questioning myself. I don't say that. I say, you don't like me. You don't like me because I don't like me. When I like me, then whoever has to like me is going to like me. It's fine. And you know what? Whoever doesn't have to like me is very good. Fine. We'll figure it out. When I don't like me, then you don't like me. You don't like me. You don't like me. You're talking behind my back. You're texting because I'm boring. You're talking to somebody else. Whatever it is, then suddenly the whole world is a difficult place to live. So spiritually speaking, Esther Yirakreikus haisa. In other words, it's the matzav when a person's own inner beauty is concealed, and that's leisedi l'chayafa b'nashim. So it's two different states. There's the state when Jews are called Rachel, and there's the state when the Jewish people are called Esther. And here the Rebbe throws a divine bomb, I would say. He says, listen to this. And you see the words loy seidi are in italic. You know what italic means? Like underlined. It's not underlined, but italic means when it's a different font, so you emphasize the words. The loy seidi creates Adalayada. On one, and that's the whole point. On one level, Purim is Loisedi Lachayafa Banashim. You don't know, because it's exile. I'm a slave of Achashverosh. I'm not a slave of God. What's the meaning of being a slave of Achashverosh of Eved Hashem? Eved Hashem means you know who you are. Eved Achashverosh means Achashverosh has to tell me who I am. People think Avdei Hashem means now I'm a slave of God, now I'm a slave of Achashverosh. Okay, which is better? Maybe Achashverosh is better, because at least Achashverosh, you don't say Achashverosh, V'hinei Achashverosh nitzav alav u'maloi chala. Achashverosh nitzav alav. How's the niggin go? U'maloi chala aretz Achashverosh. U'mabit alav. At least Achashverosh, I could run to the bathroom. I don't know, I could lock the door. Right? So it's better at least. With Hashem. Maloi chala it's kvoide. Mabit alav v'ichin kloyes v'lev. It could be very disturbing. But that's, of course, a very depressing and external way of looking at it. It's the exact opposite. Eved Hashem means that Seidi Lachayafa Banashim. You understand who you are. You understand that you are a manifestation of the divine in this world. The Gemara says, Mashakana Eved Kana Rabbi. Eved Melech, Melech. An Eved of a Melech is called a Melech. Rashi brings it in Chumash, the Gemara says it in Shavuos. Eved Melech is Melech. Why? Because Mashakana Eved Kana Rabbi. The Eved acquires, Rabbi acquires. And the Rashba, this is in Gemur Kiddushin, the Rashba explains it's not pshat the Eved acquires it and then it goes over to the master. It's lechatchila kana Rabbi. It's like the Eved is a manifestation of Rabbi. which is the Rambam Paskas in Hilchos Shvuos. If an Eved makes a neder, it's a serious thing. It's bechlal, it's not chal. It would be like I'll make a neder on your fruits. I'll make a neder on your house. I don't have a power to impose legal procedures on somebody else's property. It's not negay. Like I don't have that koyach. So he said because the Eved belongs to the Rabbi, so Mela can make a neder and a shvu. That's what the Rambam. I think the other Rishonim argue, but it's a chiddush. What's the point? My point here is when you say Avdei Achashverosh, Avdei Hashem, the idea here is Avdei Hashem means it's Seidi Lachayafa Banashim. Person knows who they are. Avdei Hashem means you're in tune with the rhythm of existence. You're in tune with the true hierarchy of existence. Avdei Achashverosh means I need Achashverosh to tell me who I am. So Purim is a matzav of Esther, not Rachel. Loi Seidi Lachayafa Banashim. You don't know. So obviously, it's a very difficult space to be in. But from this, you have an apichul. What's the transformation of Loi Seidi? We spoke earlier that the power of Purim is transformation. Hapesha Asra, Hapesha Hitter. Achashverosh is the one who made the miracle, the same one who made the decree. It's not that Achashverosh was eliminated. Achashverosh was the one who made the decree, and he's the one who created the salvation. Everything that Haman did to undermine the Jewish people, those very acts became the great blessing of the Jewish people. That was the Chiddush of Purim. And he explained because the tshuva of Purim was v'napechu. It's not that you eliminate the sins, it's that you transform them. It's doinus nasa like kazachis. And that's the power of Yom Kippur. So he says here too, Loi Seidi is a state of ignorance. There's no knowledge, there's no connection. I don't know Yafa Banashim. What happens on Purim? From that, Ad Lo Yada is created. From when knowing who I am, I can create Lo Yada. Ad Lo Yada. It's a matzav of Yada. It's beautiful, you know, and it's good. It's good to know your beauty. Because there was a Loi Seidi Lachayafa Banashim. So he says, from the Loi Seidi is given on Ad Lo Yada. The whole simcha of Purim is Ad Lo Yada, higher than Yada, in a positive sense. That's from the Loi Seidi. From the Loi Seidi, which is l'chayra, the darkness that exists in the time of Purim, it is, the transformation is Ad Lo Yada. Was fragst du? What do you? Avada. Lo Yada is much higher than Yada, as we will see. The Loi Seidi is lower than Das. In other words, it's a lack, right? I'm ugly. Loi Seidi Lachayafa Banashim. Haster Aster, I'm concealed. My beauty is concealed. But from that matzav of Loi Seidi, only from that, when that's transformed, you touch the space which is beyond Das Ad Lo Yada. That's going to be explained. Yeah. You can ask, yeah.
The beauty is a strange quality because if a person knows his strengths and the person knows how smart he is, he can relate to it. But knowing your beauty is like if you do, it's like it's
good question.
Narcissistic.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to know what beauty means. It's the next chapter. Yeah. We're not talking here about the beauty of. Because that's the expression of Shashirim.
We don't relate to ourselves as a Yofu Banoshim.
Right.
How do you translate it? Am I attractive to? What are we talking about?
Right. No, we're talking here a different type of beauty. We'll see in a moment. It's a very good question. Why is the focus on beauty? Yeah, you want to ask something? Gimel. V'yesh l'vayir tchila. To understand this, what are we talking about? Yafa Banashim, Yafasta. We're talking about Pasha, that I should be able to look at myself and say, I'm attractive. I'm the most handsome guy on the universe. What are we talking about? What's this whole inyan? So here it's very important to strip it from the materialistic veneer and shows that not. And the important thing here is, in other words, Yoifi and Gashmias, if it's stripped from Yoifi and Ruchnias, it's like a person. A person's entire investment is in their physical reality outside of their spiritual reality becomes a tragedy because the person is not just physicality. But it's not that Yiddishkeit undermines the physical element of it. It's just when the physical is connected to the spiritual, it's holistic. So he's going to say, what are we talking about when you say Yefas Torah v'Yefas Mara? For Inyan Bazeh, the Inyan is the Hine Achilik ben Torah lamadahu. What's the difference between Torah and Mara? There's two expressions, Yefas Torah v'Yefas Mara. And you have it throughout the Chumash, right? It says it about Yosef. Yosef, the only male in Chumash who's described that way. He was Rachel's son. By Yosef, it says in Parshas, it says about his mother, Yefas Torah v'Yefas Mara, and by Yosef in Parshas Vayeshev, Vayhi Yosef Yefei Torah v'Yefei Mara, exactly the same expression like Rachel, because he was her son. He was her b'chor. But on men, you don't have that expression. The Torah describes Sarah. Avram Avinu said, Hine yadna yadaiti ki isha Yefas Mara, he uses the word Mara. By Rivka, it says, when she came to the well, right, Eliezer saw her, Toivas Mara. By Rachel, we just learned Yefas Torah v'Yefas Mara. So the Torah is emphasizing about the Imoyas, about the matriarchs, Sarah and Rivka and Rachel, not Leah, Rachel, this quality. And two expressions, there's Toyar and there's Mara. What's the difference? So he says, Toyar koi al tmunas ha'ivarim. Hainu she'ivarim mebi meshkalim u'be'erkam kediboyi. Umara koi al cluster haponim. Toyar has to do with what we call physique. The symmetry, the tmuna means the picture of the Eivarim, the display of the Eivarim of the limbs. The Eivarim are b'mishkalam u'be'erkam kediboyi. There's a symmetry in terms of the weight, in terms of the size, in terms of the physique. That's what Toyar represents. There's a symmetrical, like a piece of art, where everything is integrated in the most beautiful of ways.
Greeks' beauty. Greeks were very much into the beauty of the body.
Well, the Greeks worshipped beauty, yeah. Physical beauty, yeah. Mara is koya cluster upon him. Mara is not the physique of all the limbs and their symmetrical relationship with each other, but it's the face, it's the countenance. Cluster upon him means, sometimes you look at a face, there's a light, there's a shine. It's a beautiful face to look at. This is very much connected to the circulatory system of a person. The hiluch hadama means the journey of the blood, the circulation of blood through the giddim, through all of the blood arteries. Giddim are the veins and the arteries through which the blood cruises and travels, which affects the flush or the mara, the countenance of a person's face. Spiritually, in a person's soul, this is the two structures of Yiddishkeit, mitzvahs esse, mitzvahs loises. The Ramach mitzvah says the 248 positive mitzvahs, that's connected to the 248 organs. It says Ramach mitzvahs keneged Ramach evarim. The 248 organs in the human body correspond to the 248 mitzvahs. And that's the idea of Toyar. As we said, Toyar is that each organ of the body, the symmetry and the way it's designed and functioning is in perfect beauty and symmetry. That's mitzvah sesa. And then you have the shasa giddim. Chazal say the shasa giddim. It says in Zohar, the 365 giddim. The veins or arteries, sinews are connected. The shasa mitzvahs loisasa. That's the mara. That's what affects the mara, as we said, because that's how the blood travels, including to the face. V'hainu shekasha v'dos some shel Yisrael hikidiboyi she'einin in the mepnei chatenu azay knesset Yisrael yefas toyer mitzat shleimus ramach yivaram adekim ramach mitzvahs esei u'kamoi ki nikras yefas mari mitzat shleimus hashasa gidim ma'idei zekolayam deloisa seim al mishmartam. So when a person's spiritual posture is intact, so both there's Yefei Toyar and there's the Yefei Mara. The posture is intact and the face captures this unique light and beauty of the person. So what does that mean? On a collective level, spiritually in every Jew and collectively, when the avoid of a person is the way it should be. So Knesset Yisrael, they're called Yefas Toyar and Yefas Mara. Yefas Toyar captures the unique symmetry and perfection in all of the limbs, the 248 mitzvahs hasei, positive mitzvahs, and Yifas Mara because there is also the respect, the boundaries, as he says, everything of Loisa says al mishmartam. Mishmartam means there's the boundaries that the Giddim are protected from the Loisas of the 365 prohibited things. Yifas Torah v'Yifas Mara, hainu. Shleimas b'kinyan ha-Torah Mara b'lvad al tzarech liz b'zeh inyan ha-yofi meid al inyan ha-iskalulos. Kumay b'pashtus shamitis ha-yofi b'shosh yesh iskalulos mekama gvanim. It doesn't just say they had a Toyer and a Mara. It says Yifas Toyer v'Yifas Mara. You can have Toyer, you can have Mara, but it's not Yifas. Yifas from the word Yoifi, beautiful. What adds to the beauty? There's Toyer and Mara on its own. There's a Toyer and there's a Mara. But here we say Yifas Toyer v'Yifas Mara. That represents integration, symmetry, hiskalalos. He says you see beauty comes when different forces, different colors, Gvana means colors. When different colors come together to create a beautiful piece of art, it's not one color. It's the symphony, it's the integration, it's the synthesis of different colors that brings out the most powerful beauty. The same is true in architecture, the same is true in music. See a beautiful piece of music. If it's just one note, you could do a C minor, whatever it is, fine. But one note is not going to create a beautiful ballad. The power of symphony, right? You have a choir. Children singing. It's not the one voice. Could be a beautiful voice too, but that combination of voices creates a special type of aesthetical feeling. The same is true with a symphony of many different musicians, each one with their own instrument. And together, the togetherness, the synthesis, it's called hiskalalus mikama gvanim. The integration of many colors, that's what creates yoifi, that's what creates beauty. Things that could be different, and the same is true with a guf. A guf is a piece of art. It's Hashem's piece of art. It's one of them, probably the most incredible piece of art in our world, just the brain, just the design of the brain. When you see the hiskalus, the integration of everything, it's mind-blowing. That's yoifi. So he's saying here, both in the Toyer and both in the Mara, there's an element of yoifi.
Well, not so beautiful.
Huh?
If yofa gadashim means potential or yid, you can say the shade is a chasar because you should know your beauty. If it means that you do mitzvahs, I'll say I'm mitzvahs less and with this halagas, then we're not so beautiful. Who is
Right.
so yofa gadashim?
Right. So we'll see, exactly. You're saying Lo Seidilach could be not just my illusion, it could be a genuine thing. That if I'm missing mitzvahs aseh, mitzvahs lo aseh. Yeah, in a chanami, we'll see in a moment. Yeah. What does this mean in a person? Yefei Toyer v'yefei Mara. What does that mean? I understand you have a Mara, you have Toyer, you have mitzvahs aseh, you have mitzvahs lo aseh. So he says Yoifi is the hiskalos, the integration, meaning V'hainu shavodas adam b'Torah mitzvahs sichiliyas loy b'kav echad kava yaminai hafchoi ela b'ofen shel hiskalos hakaven. K'mayim and azal al shloisha dvarim meilamim and al Torah v'alavayda v'gmodis chasadim gemachu kava yamin. Avodas kava smell and Torah is kava emtzoi. V'kasha avoidi b'chol gimel hakaven shuinyan hiskalos kol hagvanim azay nas inyan hayofi. A person's avodah in Torah mitzvahs could be a person has one kav. That's not yoifi. It's one kav. This is where I am. Anything else that doesn't fit in to my nature, my disposition, or my schedule, I have no connection to. The concept of yoifi is that the person has that openness and flexibility to be able to embrace different kavim, different aspects, different lines, different attitudes, different experiences. That's what Chazal say in Pirkei Avos. The world stands on three things. Torah, Avodah, Gemilas, Chasadim. Right? It's the tripod. The tripod, why it has three legs, yeah? Pashat, the photographers will tell you it's at stability. The three legs, it's much better even than 4 or 5. It's much better, yeah. Yeah, especially when you have surfaces that are not flat. You have slopes. They're going to a wedding, on a mountain, here, there. It's the tripod, the trio, the shloisha dvarim ha'olam ha'omed. So who invented the tripod? Pirkei Avos says the world is standing on a tripod. Torah, Avodah, Gemilas, Chasadim. So he says Torah, Gemilas, Chasadim is kava yamin, is the right. Avodah is connected to kava small, to the left. And Torah is kava emtzai, the center. So you have the thesis and antithesis and synthesis. So it brings it together, so you have the three kavim. And when you have that integration, you have beauty. Specifically, Yifas Toyer meir alai skalus yofi b'kim ramach mitzvah seseh. Toyer. Your fast Torah represents the beauty in Toyar, not Mara. There's going to be Mara. What's the beauty in Toyar? The beauty in the Ramach mitzvah says, shekol mitzvah klula mikol mitzvahs. It says every mitzvah has in it all of the other mitzvahs. That's what yoifi means, integration. It's one of the reasons it's a oisig mitzvah, patam and a mitzvah. If you're involved in one mitzvah, you're patam from other mitzvahs. So the Rakachava explains, he proves it from Gemara, the reason is because each mitzvah essentially has all the other mitzvahs in it. So Mela, when you're oisig in a mitzvah, you're patam in a mitzvah because you're already doing that mitzvah too. This represents the concept that there's a scholars, just like you have in the body of a person, right? In the DNA, in the what's called the code in the genome that exists in every cell, you have a double copy of the genome, which the DNA is a blueprint of all the parts of the body. In other words, in each element of the guf, you have hiskalulus, you have integration of all the other parts of the guf, even though this is only one cell from trillions of cells in the body. What does this mean in a person's avodah? V'hainu kasher mekayim mitzvah ein zu b'nei shemitzat tiva yesh leichayas v'islavas es verkocht bekavas asher menu nemshachas mitzvah zu elakiyah mitzvah zu kolul mikol ha-mitzvahs gam mea-mitzvahs shenemshachas me'akav ha-hofchi kivan sh'asiyas ha-mitzvah mitzat tiva Hashem sho l'mayla mi'eschalkus l'kavan of melu koilas ha'kav. Usually, the word of the Rakachava and Isa mitzvah patam mitzvah is a geschmack word. That in every mitzvah you have other mitzvahs. So in Mela you potter. You potter. But he says this is a taich of how to do a mitzvah. When you're doing a mitzvah, it's teaching you how to do a mitzvah. It's not just, so you're exempt. I'm doing one mitzvah, I don't have to do another mitzvah. That's not the word. He says, when I do a mitzvah, it could be two things. It could be, it works with my ego. It happens to be that this mitzvah works with my ego, right? If I'm OCD, l'mashal, yeah? So a lot of halacha works very well for me. In fact, somebody once told me he became frum because he was OCD, and he needed a system of life that would work with it. And sometimes you see people, I need safety, I need to, just tell me what to do 24/7, and I'll do it. It fits very well. The moment this person goes out of their comfort zone, oy vavoy. God is as powerful as my comfort zone. The moment I go out of my comfort zone, I'm done. In other words, Yiddishkeit has a kav. As long as I'm in this kav, gesundheit, I'm the best. But the moment I'm challenged to go out of this kav, and usually somebody in your life is going to challenge you, usually people closest to us, I lose it. Kav means a line, a way, a comfort zone, a structure. So it's important. People have structures, and people need structures, and you have different dispositions. Ha'oisig mitzvah patam and mitzvah means never get involved in the mitzvah that without losing the touch that it's all the mitzvahs. In other words, even mitzvahs that come from an opposite kav. There's different types of mitzvahs. There's essay, there's license, there's Torah, avodah, milas chasadim. Whenever I'm oisik in a mitzvah, don't get stuck on the external form. Touch the DNA of it, and when you touch the DNA, then it's all the mitzvahs are there. In other words, when you touch the nekuda that it's a elikus, it's a tzivui Hashem, it's Hashem's tzivui. Hashem is not defined by kavan. He's lamayla me'ischalkus lekavan. God is not defined by division into forms. And b'meila he's koilel all of them. Don't worship the outer structure, right? Worship Hashem, who's beyond structure. Now he's being manifested through this structure. Now I'm eating matzah. Now I'm putting on tefillin. Now I'm davening. Now I'm learning. Now I'm giving tzedakah. Now I'm in a state of connection with others. Now I'm in a state where I'm alone. Avada. But what happens is, it's an expression, right? There's Jews who are scared of the Shulchan Aruch, and there's Jews who are scared of Hashem. You understand the difference? That's what he's saying. There's a relationship. Something called Yiras Hashem. There's a relationship here. Because what's wrong with it? Nothing wrong with being afraid of the Shulchan Aruch. It's good. But what often happens is there's a lot of ego involved. And not necessarily ego in a bad way, but ego simply, it's my comfort zone. Like, don't bother me. My Shabbos table has to look X, Y, and Z. And if it doesn't, because it's not what your child needs, it's a churban. Your whole Shabbos is destroyed. Who decides what a Shabbos table has to look like? Tell me. If I don't follow the Parsha sheets, it's not Shabbos? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, this is it. So felt the oisik b'mitzvah patam and a mitzvah, the hiskalalus of all the mitzvahs. There's an edelkeit here. And so when you do a mitzvah, be connected to the divine in the mitzvah. When you're connected to the divine in the mitzvah, you're not stuck. Obviously, right now, it's a Shabbos table. And there's certain mitzvahs that I have to do now. Avada. And that's what Shulchan Aruch is. But that's what yoifi means. Yoifi means it's not just one limb. You don't hold on to one limb. There's a symmetry, there's a body, there's a physique. You understand? That's what it means. It's not one mitzvah. There's all the mitzvahs. Even in each limb, the limb is in a relationship with all the other limbs. That's what a physique means. That's what your fast tayar means. That's the beauty. Why? Because you're always touching the elikus, the divinity in the mitzvah. And Hashem is not defined by a kav. Hashem is not defined by chesed, by gvura, by teferes, by yamin, by small, by emtza. It's beyond kav, and therefore it integrates them, and therefore they can work together. And therefore I'm not stuck if I have to move, if I have to shift. Sometimes you have to it's very hard to make these paradigm shifts. That's pshat the yoifi in Yiddishkeit, the skalalus.
Because you're in this mitzvah, so you kill everything else. I think the Lushan should have been nice when a mitzvah, because when mitzvah acheres, doesn't say that.
So how are you touching it? Because
of this mitzvah, and you're doing it with this kalus, that's why because min ha-mitzvah, because it's already koil everything.
Yeah. It's very easy to get stuck, I get stuck in a cup because I'm not in touch with the mitzvahs Hashem. It becomes almost like it works for me. And because it works for me, it's not... so if it doesn't work for me, I'm done. So sometimes it can become selfish, sometimes it can become destructive. And sometimes it can become very, very egotistical. And even if not, but sometimes it becomes very limited. A person becomes a very limited person because I'm not in touch with and that's the mashal of the DNA I was giving. The chiddush of the DNA is that any part of the body that you extract it from, it has the entire guf there. Because whenever you're dealing with atzmius, like the Baal Shem Tov says, ha'etzem kshat ha'toifes b'chel kat ha'toifes b'kulei. When you touch etzem, essence, even a little part of it has everything. If you're touching a core level, any chelik has the whole. So if you're touching the DNA of the mitzvah, every mitzvah has all the other mitzvahs. If you're touching the external part of the mitzvah, then it doesn't. This is this type of mitzvah. This is an opposite type of mitzvah. V'zeu inyan hayofi shebekiyum ha-mitzvahs. Shekol mitzvah klula mikol ha-mitzvahs, mikol ha-kavim. U'kamoy ken b'shmiras mitzvahs lo yisasa. De'imei yois sheklolos havodah d'sur mirayim etzad kav ha-gvura, mikol mokem yesh baze inyan hayofi. And the same is true with loisasa also, which is surmeira. Generally, it's connected to the kav hagvura, to the line of gvura, of discipline, of strength. Ezo giber hakovish es yitzray. So generally, it's connected to kav hasmoil. But we say yefei mara. Not only yefei toya, yefei mara. What does it mean yefei mara? Not just you have a mara. There's a beauty there. There's a beauty in surmeira. What does it mean there's a beauty in it? It's one thing, it's negative. It's abstaining from things that are not good. So the person is in a state of discipline and self-containment and kovish es yitzray. You're conquering yourself. But yefei mara means there's a hiskalus, there's an integration from all of the kavim and from all of the mitzvahs. Here again, the sur meira is not just based on, I'm a very disciplined and strong person, and therefore I'm naturally maybe more reserved or more introspective or more introverted or more tough and harsh, and then it actually works for me. And then when I'm called to go into a different modality, it's very, very hard. Here too, Sur Meirah needs to have an element of yoifi. We call ha-mitzvahs. It's not just because it fits me. There's a yoifi here, there's a beauty here. What that means on a practical level is, there's somebody who stays away, and the point is I'm staying away. The point is to show to myself or others that I'm staying away. In other words, again, I start worshiping the disengagement, the Sur Meirah. Then it's almost I'm excited about how negative the other person is, and I could stay away from it. Don't worship your Sur Meirah. Worship Hashem. Some Tzedek writes somewhere in one of the Maimonim in Derech Mitzvah, he says sometimes you have a kanoi, a very zealous person. So he says he protests and makes machas and this. He says the real problem is he has midas mushchasas. He never worked on his midas. But if he comes to shul and says that, it's not going to be so popular. So he always finds a carbon, a victim, who he can get upset about. The problem is he's an angry man. And because he's an angry man, the anger has to come out. So if Baruch Hashem, he found God to let out his anger. There's no personal refinement here. You're not challenging yourself. I'm not over that, like the Maharal says, I'm not over this Hashem, I'm over this Atzmi. In Sur Meirah could sometimes be even worse than Asay Tov, because everything is Ra besides me. That's not Yoifi. Even in Sur Meirah, there's a beauty here. What's the beauty? The beauty is you're not stuck in this. There's a positivity here. Take in a marriage. In a marriage, there's two inyanim. Tosfos says, why is Kiddushin called Kiddushin? So he says, one reason is because Asr la kol alma kehektash. When you get married, the wife is forbidden for the whole world, like hektash, just like something holy in the Beis Hamikdash. No, it's not for everybody to use. There's exclusivity, there's intimacy. That's one inyan. And then there is Mekudeshes Miyuchedes Mizumenesli. She's designated to you. The Rakachava explained, there's two elements in Kedusha. One is the positive and one is the negative. Negative in a good way. The positive is two people are married. The negative is they're disconnected from the rest of the world. Disconnected in a good way. They're not married to anybody else. If a woman says, I'm married to you, but I'm also, what do they call it? They call it an open marriage, right? One of the biggest mishagasin of our generation. A couple came to me. From a couple. He wants an open marriage. Says everybody will be happier. She could bring in people. He could bring in people. After a few minutes, I'm saying, where did you get this from? It turns out he's an atheist. Once you're an atheist, so who decides what's good, what's not good? So I had to use a completely different language. So I said, from an evolutionary perspective, if you want evolution to work, survival of the fittest, it's going to work much better if there's trust. It's not evolution. When there's trust, the system is more relaxed. It's going to work much better. What's my point? There's no such a thing. If I'm connected to you, right, the Chovos HaLevavos writes, you're not going to have fire and water coexisting. I can't be addicted to pizza and cheesecake and ragalach and all the other things they have for breakfast, Baruch Hashem. And at the same, also I'm connected to a healthy lifestyle. You got to choose. Can't have a pie of pizza and then I'm going to go to the gym and then another pie of pizza for dessert. You have to choose. There's a relationship with something. So there's two elements in the marriage. There's Asr la kol alma kehektash. There's I belong to you, and because I belong to you, I have boundaries. I don't belong to somebody else. People don't like that always. They don't like that. But that means that the positive is missing. Because if there was a real connection, you understand, to maintain that connection, a child needs to know, this is my father, this is my mother. Stalin in Russia, he wanted, what do you need families for? The state will educate kids. You make a crazy world. The safety of a child is, this is my mother, this is my father, you're my tati, you're my mommy. Yeah, there's a safety there. And the more you have that, the more you could be a universal person who's connected to everybody, because you have an anchor. Same is true in a marriage. If there's a very positive relationship, yeah, there's boundaries. Why? Because it doesn't begin with the negative, it begins with the positive. But if you have a marriage which is only asr lakul al makedish, but there's no connection, then it's taka churban. Because all we have is no, right? It's like houses. What's Shabbos? Shabbos is you can't do that, you can't do that. Muktzah, everything is forbidden. Was, yeah? I don't know, we're miserable. If the Shabbos table is only we don't, was, yeah? That's the idea. Sur meira, it's not, don't get stuck in the, I don't. There's a connection. That's why I don't. If it's only I don't, without a substitute of what do we do? There's a marriage, there's a beautiful marriage. That's why we don't go other way. There's a relationship. If there's nothing for me in the house, I'm coming home and it's miserable and no one is connecting. Yeah, of course I need other connections. What do you want me to do? So if you're lucky, I just hang out here in shul and I eat soup. So that's my connection. Okay, better than other stuff. And if we're not so lucky, my Yetzer Hara takes me to other places. You get your Teufels Dinyan. Sur Meira is the same, so just like we said, mitzvah sesi, it's the same Nakuda. It's not Sur Meira only about this. It's Kala mitzvahs. There's a connection here, there's a connectivity here. And then it's not negative only. Then there's a yoifi in it, there's a beauty in it. Because you're connected to the divine DNA of the mitzvah. That's Pshat yoifi. Yeah.
When it comes to mitzvahs, what has Kadima? Mitzvahs bin Adam Makom or Adam?
I don't know that there's one.
Something comes to like davening or helping your wife. Which one comes first?
What comes first, davening or helping your wife?
Right.
If you don't help your wife, you need a lot of davening. If you don't help your wife, you'll need davening.
He says if you don't help her, you're going to have to daven much more. It's going to be hard to daven if you're not helping your wife. Your davening needs kavanah. And ultimately, you want the wife to understand that when you're davening, you're also helping. If a wife feels that davening is a distraction of the relationship, there's something that needs to be healed. If it's because I need to escape the house, so there's mincha, ma'ariv, ashir, daf yomi, shachris, vasikin, tikkun chatzois, whatever it is, all these good things. If it's an escape, then we're stuck again. I'm looking for escapes. I'm looking to escape. I'm looking to, because there's a lack of connection. You understand? That's the idea of oisik mitzvah potem and a mitzvah. The mitzvah is part of a collective relationship. It's a holistic experience. And that's why sometimes there's this mitzvah, and sometimes they say, no, this is not this mitzvah. Now it's the time for another mitzvah. And I'm fine. My Shabbos table has to look differently. My Seder has to look different. People come to a Pesach Seder with expectations what a Seder is supposed to look like. And they're so annoyed afterwards. There's fathers who prepare speeches for a month before Pesach. They have 30 agadas. They prepare the best vertlach in the world. And of course they're waiting for all the kids and the Eneklach and the Ureneklach to sit with open mouths as this man is going to spew the most delicious divrei Torah that ever existed since before the Eitz Hadas. And on every paragraph in the Haggadah he has another mahalach and another vart. And already 3 minutes into the Seder, this poor man is so frustrated. He says, this is Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's much better to be on the potter. We should have never left Mitzrayim with look at what the Seder looks like. He said, well, what happened? He got stuck in what a Seder is supposed to look like. What's a Seder supposed to look like? I know one thing it says, V'igada televincha. Talk to your child. What does that look like? I don't know. Figure it out. Talk to him. Don't talk to yourself. You want to give speeches? Gesundheit. Fagin, come and give speeches. V'igada televincha. That's the mitzvah. Connect to your child. Bond. Connect. Maybe it's a 5-minute experience of connection. Whichever language, yeah. Some zdarim have to look very different. My point is, I know the beauty of a Seder and everyone says Torah, it's a gewaldik, but you can't get stuck in an ego. This is an ego thing. And I don't mean a bad ego. I don't mean that people are, not a bad ego, but ego means this is what God looks like. How do you know what God looks like? He doesn't look like anything. What's a Seder? What's it supposed to look like? It's maybe a nice ego and a fruming. I'm not being mavatl. I'm not judging it. Everyone has it. But there comes a moment and you have to say, ask not what God can do for you. Ask what you can do for God. What's the Ratzon Hashem now? Maybe it's a different Ratzon. Maybe it's a complete different modality. There was a Yid here in Muncie, a very special Jew, Rabbi Ronnie Greenwald. You remember him? Olav Shalom. He once, so there's an organization, a kind of organization, I don't know if it's Gateway, I don't know, they made up some big Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur retreat to bring in a lot of Jews out, and they rented a big hotel. They would sleep there and daven, and he was invited there, I guess, to be one of the, I don't know, Yom Kippur, how many shiurim you give, but maybe before Yom Kippur, the middle, by the hefsek. And he said he came in before Kol Nidre to the hotel. He came in the late afternoon to the hotel. And he's walking already to Kol Nidre with his kittel, with the talis, with the guy, everything. He's walking, Jews before Kol Nidre. There's a certain energy. And he sees right then a van pulls up in front of the hotel. And like 12 people come out. And right away, one look, he sees that these are all, kids from Muncie, from Lakewood, from Williamsburg, from Monroe, from Borough Park, Crown Heights, whatever it was. And they book a room, and a few minutes later they're sitting in the lobby with everyone is coming from the Suddam Avsekes to Kol Nidre with a lot of beer. So Ronnie at that moment understood that his avodah is not to go to shul, and he sat with them. He said, "What brings you here?" They said, "Listen, if we're going to live where we are, there's all this Yom Kippur guilt. We don't want Yom Kippur guilt, so we came here. We came here to enjoy our Yom Kippur." And they went to the other extreme. Of course, Yom Kippur in the morning, and on Yom Kippur they went to the beach, whatever they did, everything covered Yom Kippur and Hexton und Schenstenhaufen. And he said basically his entire Yom Kippur was spent either in the lobby or on the beach. He came into shul for Ne'ilah. He got the end of Ne'ilah. He says, but it happens to be so at the end of he says, for Ne'ilah, when he went back for Ne'ilah, 99% of them came with him. So a whole Yom Kippur, he's killing him. This Yom Kippur, this is Yom Kippur. I came here to have a good Yom Kippur. This is Yom Kippur. How do you know what Yom Kippur is? What's Yom Kippur supposed to look like? How do you know? That's what we mean when we talk about beauty. Beauty means there's a flexibility. Just like in physicality, right? There's a flexibility. There's a physique or a body that's very tight. It's very tight. I only move in a certain direction. Yeah? In different postures of exercise and stretches, the concept is there's a flexibility, there's an interplay. And that means there's a comfort. I'm not stuck in a particular pattern. And that's also part of Yoifi. So both in mitzvahs esya and mitzvahs loisasa, that's the concept of hiskalolus. It's the concept of integration. Now, like everything, this can be misconstrued. It means, oh, Yom Kippur, so just sit in the lobby with people that are not like you. The rabbi's sermon is boring. There's also the other side, right? There's a person, they may be afraid, they don't like confrontation, they don't like discipline, they don't like structure, so let's just chill. Sometimes the trap of ego works both ways. It doesn't always work in, sumeram, a harsh, uptight person. It's the exact opposite. Everything goes. I'm such a cool chiller. Yeah, you're so cool chiller, you don't even know how to bond with your kids. You don't have an opinion, you don't have a perspective, you don't have feelings. I just let everybody do whatever they want. It looks beautiful. In other words, love doesn't mean everything is permissible. Love means attunement. Love means you're connected. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, I'm just a relaxed person. I'm detached, so I'm relaxed. I don't care about anything. I'm disassociated, so everything goes. That's the opposite. That's what we're saying. Mitzvah means since every mitzvah there is, so no mitzvahs are important. Or Sur Meira, it's a beautiful Sur Meira. It's a seriousness here. The seriousness is not a seriousness that's coming from an uptightness and an egotistical trip. It's coming from connection. Real connection. And connection not just with the mitzvah, with the source of the mitzvah. And we say with the source of the mitzvah, I'm not stuck in a particular kaf. So this is all the concept of Yefei Toyar v'Yefei Mara. Again, so Toyar is Ramach mitzvahs essay. Mara is Shasam mitzvahs loisasa. As we said, Toyar is the Evarim. Mara is the Gidim. Toyar has to do with the symmetry of the Evarim, and Mara has to do with the blood that flows through the Gidim. And that creates the Mara. Toyar is the positive involvement, and Mara is the state of the person. Right, the shmira of the person, Shasam mitzvahs loisasa, means there's what I do, and then there's what I don't do, which is as powerful as what I do, because what I don't do really defines me. What I don't do is the boundaries I create. That defines you as much as what you do. You know, people don't realize loisasa defines you as much as essay. Essay means what I do, but loisasa means what I don't do. That's part of me. You right? I don't do this. That's a very serious part of me, because that really creates the boundary, like where you are. If I do and I do everything, there's no you. So the Loisa says the Marit, really what the person looks like. But in each one, there could be Yoifi and not Yoifi. Yoifi is, the beauty of it is the scholars of it, the integration of it. The connection that it's a mitzvah Hashem. It's not just my nature happens to fall in, to fit it. This fits into my nature. As fakocht, I become passionate about it because it just happens to fit. But there's really no personal emancipation. There's no egolessness. There's no transcendence. When there's transcendence, that's the way of avodah is that when I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm really doing every other mitzvah. If when I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm really doing every other mitzvah, then I'm not afraid when I have to change course. Because I was never only doing this mitzvah. So it's a whole new vort in Isaac mitzvah potem and a mitzvah. It's a taich of how to do every mitzvah. When I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm not only doing this mitzvah, I'm doing every other mitzvah, even the mitzvahs that by nature they're opposite from this mitzvah. When I'm doing the mitzvah of Ahavta l'recha kamoicha, the mitzvah of Ahavta l'recha kamoicha is opposite from the mitzvah of mechalala, of echech techiach and mechalala mois yumas. It's the opposite. And it's tak. One is chesed, one is gvura. But when you're oisik of mitzvah pater, mitzvah means even when I'm doing Ahavta l'recha, I'm also doing the other mitzvah. How can you be doing the other mitzvah? Because you're connecting not just to your comfort zone, you're connecting to the fact that it's a mitzvah of Hashem. And the tzivui Hashem is beyond the chalkus. It's beyond the visibility in particular structure. So I may be doing this, but I'm not completely defined by this. And therefore I'm not going to get lost in the ego. I'm not going to get lost in the easiness of it. Because sometimes in a moment's notice, I have to shift. I have to shift because that's what is necessary now. When I'm fully present, when I'm attuned, I can make that shift. The same is true the opposite. Right? That's why a person always needs to ask themselves, I'm doing a mitzvah now. Yeah, I'm trying to educate my child, whatever it is. Am I responding to my fear? Am I responding to my anxiety? Then it's not oisik b'mitzvahs Hashem. Then I'm oisik in my anxiety. Don't call it chinuch. If my rebuking my child is a way of alleviating my guilt, my shame, my anxiety, my pain, okay. So you're using your child as your therapist. I don't think you should be doing that. At least pay him. At least pay him like you pay a therapist. Say, I need to use you now as my therapist, and I'm going to give you all the money. Maybe he won't mind. If it's a real inyan of chinuch, it's tuning in to where the person is. And what's the Ratzon Hashem in this moment? Why are you sighing? Was krachst du? Okay, we'll take a break here. Everybody have a beautiful day. And Be'ezer Hashem will continue this Monday morning, 7:45. We still have to get to the Loi Seidilach on the Ada Lo Yada. That's next step. Yeah. Hatzlacha Rabbi. Im Loi Seidilach, huh?
I think it's basically a person in in almost in his nature. We're in our comfort zone, as you say. So what you're saying is the real connection is not to be connected to your nature, but the nature of reality, absolute reality.
Yeah.
Go out of your reality into the
Yeah. Yeah. I could be stuck in my nature, and you know, but really I want to go out of my nature and go into Hashem's reality. And then my nature is not a confinement, a place of confinement.
It's dissolved in the nature of Hashem,
Right.
rather than it becomes the box.
It's not a box, it's dissolved in the infinite reality. And then it becomes a manifestation of infinity rather than a trap that keeps me stuck. This is who I am, this is who I am not. Now I'm triggered, now I can't be connected to you. And the truth is, the reason we create nature, it's a form of separateness, it's a form of protection. When I'm one with the source, I don't have to get stuck in a nature, because Hashem is not defined by any particular nature. I could manifest that through my nature. But if my nature, I put a lid on it and I say, okay, the flow is not there, so now it's a self-contained reality, now I have to invest in it and really create something that's counterfeit, the counterfeit ego.
Because that's the hardest thing about Pesach. Because Pesach, you come into this and you're a box.
Yeah.
You're a mamish
Yeah.
master.
Yeah, that's Mitzrayim.
That's completely
Mitzrayim means I'm sitting at the Seder, but I'm in Mitzrayim. Get out of Mitzrayim.
You're in a box.
The biggest Mitzrayim sometimes looks
Like a Pesach Seder.
the whole Pesach Seder is to go out of Egypt, but sometimes that's the biggest Mitzrayim.
That's the biggest
Because I'm stuck in what things are supposed to be, what it means to have a good family.
Because we have an expectation.
Yeah.
If they don't fit into our expectations.
Yeah, and also, and what if a person feels, why can't our family be like this family? All the kids sitting around and everyone prepared, drushes on the Haggadah, and everyone looks to say, Tati, you're the best Tati who ever lived, and Mommy, this is the most amazing Seder I ever had. Well, please, let's continue it. Let's not go to Shulchan Aruch, please. Let's do Maggid for another 3 hours, right? Why can't I have that family like my next door neighbor? I've seen your Seder. That's what it looks like, right?
I've seen the Seder where
It says at my house already by Kaddish, it's already a Churban. Once we hit Karpas, they're all already ready to go to sleep. By the time we start the Manishtana, this is done. We're done. Huh? It's a Labba Seder. But that's the whole Chiddush. The Chiddush is to be able to find Seder in the reality that you're facing. You understand? Instead of creating chaos from it, create Seder from it. Realize this is the rhythm. This is the beat to dance to. You don't have to run away from it. Go find me a normal house. Go find me a Seder. This is Seder. This is your Seder. Your Seder is not my Seder. What order is for you is not what order is for me. Order means creating order out of chaos. That's the Chiddush of the Seder. And that has to do with attitude. That's consciousness.
it's so difficult. It's like basically you coming into somebody say you becoming a conductor of the symphony.
Right.
And everybody in this orchestra doesn't know how to play an instrument, doesn't know how to fit in. It's a total. And you trying to conduct it in 3 hours. Supposed to be a symphony.
Beautiful. Well, what if you say we're going to do jazz? We're going to do jazz.
That type of music.
Exactly. You're saying I'm coming into a Seder as a conductor of a symphony.
And you expect
I need you to be a violinist, you to be a celloist, you to be a pianist, you to be a guitarist, you to be a drummer. It's a churban. But say no, our family does jazz.
improvisation.
Yeah, you improvise, and music doesn't have to look like music. Maybe it could look like, I don't know. And all the scream, all the...
Because everybody participates and you connects to it.
As long as everybody feels a part of it, because they feel safety, they feel connection.
You bring out the best from everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be what you thought it was going to sound like. Just bring out the best from everybody.
That's the
the
challenge.
job of the
That's
chef.
the challenge.
So when we go in with expectations that come from ego, it becomes very hard. Because everyone is always disappointing me. Always disappointing me. But that's coming from the fact that I am detached. I'm allowing myself to be detached. I'm falling into Judaism, becoming a crutch from my insecurities. You understand? I need to feel like an accomplished person. I'm a good father, I'm a successful father, I'm a erlich hayid, whatever the name is. And suddenly, this whole family is proving me wrong. So what, of course I'm angry.
So basically, instead of attachment, you have detachment because of
Yes,
attached to your expectations.
exactly. So the religion becomes a source of detachment. Whenever God becomes a source of detachment, it's not God. It's called avodah zarah. If it's Hashem, it's a source of attachment. Because what is Hashem? Hashem is the divinity that connects the world. It connects me and my kids, or me and my wife, or me and my friend, or me and another person, me and another Jew. So if it's the disconnect, it's not Hashem. Basically, there's a separation. I fell into my ego. I call it halacha, seder, mitzvahs, because that's the comfort zone I'm in. But it doesn't have to do with that. So I really have to. This is inner work. This is what we learn about constantly. It's the inner work of emancipating myself from my ego. I don't need it. We don't really need this. This is all superimposed because I'm not connected. When I'm connected with the source, I'm a channel. If I'm a channel, that's what I need to be. I need to be a channel. If I'm a channel, you're a channel for what you need to be a channel to.
What if the person wants to connect to Hashem and has the mitzvah? How do you know which mitzvah, what Hashem wants from you now? Like you once said that someone left the kippur down to help women.
The Alter Rebbe. It's a great story. The Alter Rebbe was unbelievable. He was in the middle of Kol Nidre, and he had his talus over his head, and he was davening. And suddenly he took off his talus and took off his kiddle and he left shul. And they found out that he went to the edge of the city. There was a yoledis, there was a woman who gave birth, and people left her shul, but he wanted to be by Kol Nidre. And she was left alone, she was stranded, and her life was in danger. She was hungry, the baby was hungry, she had no milk. And he went and he chopped wood on Yom Kippur. And he made a fire, he lit a fire, and he cooked soup. And he gave her the soup, and she could nurse the baby. So the Rebbe told the story once. He used to tell the story, and he said, "L'chayda, what's the chiddush? It's everybody knows Hatzalah doesn't stop on Yom Kippur. What's the chiddush? Yeah, if a mother's life is in danger and a baby is in danger, you're allowed to cook. Of course, you're allowed. It's a mitzvah. Faket by Pikuach Nefesh said it's mitzvah begadol. It's a mitzvah that you shouldn't send a small child because people shouldn't think like it's a heter. They should understand it's a mitzvah." So the Rebbe said the chiddush of the story is that he was in shul, in the middle of Kol Nidre, in the tachlis hadveikus to Hashem, in the ultimate veikus. Der felt, he felt the hunger of this woman. That was the chiddush, that he felt it. He didn't get a WhatsApp message. In Liyosha they didn't have WhatsApp, for whatever reason. So that means that he wasn't connecting to Kol Nidre, he was connecting to Hashem. You understand the difference?
So he was not connecting to Karpas.
He wasn't connecting to Karpas. He was connecting to Hashem. And B'meili was connecting to his child. The avodah is Karpas. You're right. The avodah is Karpas. He didn't go learn Gemara then. The avodah now is Karpas. Now the avodah is Yachatz. Now the avodah is Rachza. And there's a halacha how to do Rachza. I can't say, who cares? We're just we're chillers. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that. We're saying is that the Rachza is also infinite. Not that there's no rachza, there's no karpas, there's no yachatz. Of course there is. But it's God that's coming through it. If it's God that's coming through it, then the karpas is not only karpas. Then the karpas is yachatz and magid and moitzi and matzah and koirech and Shabbos and Yom Tov and tefillin and mezuzah and lulav and avos Yisrael. It's all the same. When you touch the DNA, again, the nakuda of DNA is the etzem, the core of a mitzvah. You're touching every other mitzvah. So if you're touching every other mitzvah, you're potter from every other mitzvah, and you're doing every other mitzvah. You're doing every other mitzvah. Even the mitzvahs that are opposite. Because the form is not a trap. The form is a channel. You understand the difference? Is form a channel or is form a trap? Nature is not a trap, it's a channel. By the Akedah, it says, by Avram Avinu, Ata yadati ki yirei elikim ata. I always knew you're a man of love. Now I know you have yireh. By the Akedah, it says that the first time about Avram Avinu. That Avram Avinu was a man of love, that wasn't a question. He was a lover. Avram Avinu loved. He loved people. Yitzchak by nature was very introverted. Avram by nature was extroverted. So, but his extrovertedness wasn't because he was a social butterfly and therefore he wasn't shy and he could choose. That's it says Yitzchak looked like Avram Avinu. What's the chiddush? It says Hashem made that Yitzchak should look like Avram. People were laughing. They said that Yitzchak is not his real child. Avimelech nesabra sada. So Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rashi doesn't tell the Tsar, he formed the image of Yitzchak, the visage of Yitzchak to be compared to Avram. It sounds like it was a big miracle. It's very natural that a son looks like a father. That's not a chiddush, right? You look just like your father. But a Pseudo was a chiddush. The vart is that Avram was midas hachesed. Yitzchak was midas hagvura. So mitzad their dispositions, they were opposite. The reason a son looks like a father is, on a spiritual level, on a genetic level, there's a continuation. But Yitzchak actually in nature was opposite than Avram. So at the surface, Yishmael looked more like Avram than Yitzchak. Yishmael was a very Lebedik person, a party animal. Yadei bakal, yad kol boy. Yitzchak was much more reserved. So at the surface, Yitzchak and Avram were much less similar than Yishmael and Avram. But that's on the surface. In the Pnimius, Yitzchak and Avram were the same. They lived in God's reality. So yeah, Yitzchak's avodah was through Yira. Avram's avodah was through Chesed, but they lived not in nature, not in their own nature. Their nature was a reflection of the divine nature, of divine reality, which is not stuck. So that's why Yitzchak looked like Avram. It was a chiddush that really in Pnimius, Avram was an Oved Hashem and Yitzchak was an Oved Hashem. They were both Avdei Hashem, not Avdei Achashverosh. How you serve God, everyone has a different avodah. You have yours, I have mine. Because I have my heart, I have my nature, I have my disposition, I have my strengths, I have my weaknesses, I have my talents, I have my struggles, and you have yours. It's never going to be the same. You have to know who you are and what your avodah is. But it's an avodah. There's an element of bittul here. There's an egolessness. If you can internalize this, your life is much happier. Much happier. Not only happier, you're fully present. You're present because you're attuned. You're present. You're not running somewhere. The moment I'm sitting Shabbos and there's guilt and shame and more guilt, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm not going to get angry now. I'm not going to explode. I'm already exploding. By not exploding, I'm even exploding more because it's going to come out in an hour. Passive aggressive, but it's going to come out. I learned Musar. I went to a shiur. They said you have to be an edel. Okay, fine. So I'm gonna be edel. These low lives, mamzedim. I'm not their father. I don't know where these kids came from. Mamzedim. You know when fathers call their kids mamzedim, you know who they're talking about, right? They think they're insulting their kids. I'm mamzer. Yeah, he's not talking about himself. You're not insulting your kid, you know. They say there was a Chabad house. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but Chabad house, a new guy came. And you don't know in a shul if you're a new guy when you sit, when you stand, mishteit, mezitz. So the rabbi there put him down near a tosha, somebody who's there, and he says, just copy whatever he does, you'll feel comfortable. He gets up, because it's done. So that's what he does. At the end, Shlich gets up and he says, I want to wish this fellow in shul, the guy who always came, a big mazel tov. He's fathered a child this week. So he gets up, and the guy near him gets up. So you understand the matzav. So basically, you have to know when to copy other people. Verstehst? You don't have to always copy other people. Sometimes let him stand, you stay seated. It becomes a philosophy of copying what everybody does. You have your own avodah. You don't have to copy. Your house is your house. It's not somebody else's house. You don't look at somebody else's house. So, but this person is struggling with himself. I'm going to be able. I'm going to be nice tonight. This Pesach, I'm going to be nice. You're missing the point. It's not I'm going to be nice. I have to deal with my inner demons. It's not about being nice, bechitzonius. If it's bechitzonius and an hour later I'm going to lose it, or the next day I'm going to lose it, or the child is going to feel that children feel everything. And you'll hear them tell your wife, Tati was really miserable tonight, huh? Well, he was smiling the whole time. Sure. He was smiling because he went to a shiur and somebody said you have to smile. He wasn't smiling, he was miserable. He wishes he could be the father of the Finkelsteins. I mean the Schwartzes, whatever. He wishes he could be their father. Nebuch, he ended up in this house. What's missing here? What's missing here is the person doesn't even understand who they are. Yiddishkeit has become a shtickle avodah zara, chas v'shalom. I don't mean literally, but it becomes like it's a trip. It's not a relationship. It's not a relationship. First of all, don't take it. It's not personal. It's about a mission. You don't even know about neshamas. How do you know? Maybe I had an interview with Rabbi Shimon Russell. I don't know, some of you saw it maybe. It was a 3-hour thing. It's kedai to watch. Very, very powerful for parents, children. He's a very, very authentic human being. So he shared he was in Lakewood. He was a Lakewood Talmud. He came from Gateshead and Lakewood. And, sat in Koilo for many years and became a therapist. And I think has 8 kids, Kanai or 7 or 8 kids. He wrote a book, Raising a Loving Family. He lives in Yerushalayim today. So he shared that, he was once sitting at a Shabbos table, and he said this publicly. He had 8 children, and 6 of them left Yiddishkeit. 6 of them left Yiddishkeit. I think maybe all of them or most of them came back. But imagine you're a Koilo younger man in Lakewood. This is Lakewood, 30 years ago. Talk about success, right? Talk about failure, right? And then you're a therapist telling parents what to do. Like he said, I wanted to quit my job. I was like the ultimate failure. So he said, what really attached him was one Friday night. He was miserable. None of the kids were interested, and he was just really miserable, and he was angry at them, and very tough and rough. This is not Shabbos, and nobody could say Advar Torah, nobody could sit at the table, nobody could sing a niggin, knows midas, nothing. This is like a beis mishagoyim. He was so upset. Anyway, he says he was going upstairs to sleep. And then one of his daughters, who was already checked out of the system, looks at him. And girls know how to say things in a way that sometimes boys don't. She was coming down in the, different types of garments, let's put it that way. The begadim from Adam and Chava before all the issues happened. And she looks at him and she says, so this Judaism thing is not really working out for you, Tati, is it? This Judaism thing is not really working out for you, Tati, is it? And he said this was like, and the twirl, the twirl. This Judaism thing is not really working out for you, huh? She got it. And he said at that moment, she transformed her father from being a self-serving, ultra-Orthodox narcissist into becoming a servant of God. That moment, that question, he had to look at him and say, Judaism is not working out for me. It's not. It's a miserable experience. There's something miserable about my Judaism. And that moment, he became a Yid. He became a Jew. And what happened when he became a Jew? His children also became Jewish. A Yid wants to be a Yid. A Jew wants to be a Jew. It's not a question. But he was creating a fake Judaism. And this is chas v'shalom, not to say that somebody who can have the most traditional, beautiful Shabbos table should have exactly that. And sing all the zmidas, not one zmidas, but you could sing 29 zmidas, including ka'echsoif. And when you come to v'yiyu rachamecha mizgoylalim, do it 30 times. V'yiyu rachamecha adarabah. And let everybody do all their parsha sheets. And when they finish, do mishnayos. And then do the klayaka, the Ramban, whatever you will, gesundheit. Father, it's not... but you have to know, mi yedeyim leis kazoy segat l'malchus. You got to know which mitzvah you got to tune into. Maybe the mitzvah you have to tune into is v'havta l'recha kamoicha. Maybe the mitzvah you have to tune into is mesiras nefesh. You have to have mesiras nefesh. Maybe that's the mitzvah. How do you know that? Maybe that's the mitzvah now. Maybe the mitzvah is that I have to have mesiras nefesh. I have to surrender my ego to Hashem's will. Maybe that's the mitzvah. You have to know what the mitzvah is. This takes a lot of humility and a lot of practice. And guidance from the right people who understand these things, not from the wrong people. Sometimes the worst guidance we get is, why don't you explain to her that in this house we don't dress like this? Explain it to her. She's only 17 years old. She knows what you believe and your wife believes better than you do. She's heard this speech, I don't know, between 12 and 13,000 times. You think she doesn't know the values in this family? Explain it. Just explain it. Say it nicely. Nothing to do with that. She knows everything. She doesn't want to know, or she's not ready to know for whatever reason. But it's hard. It's hard to surrender. I want the quick fix. The quick fix is not about the other person. It's about me. I want the quick fix. So if I could cover up the leak and I shouldn't see the water coming down, I'm fine. What about the fact that above the cover-up, the whole system is disintegrating? Oh, I don't care. There's no leak. Somebody has an infection and shows up on the skin. They put a Band-Aid. The doctor says, yeah, but you have an infection. It's going to affect your lungs. Just put a Band-Aid. I'm looking for a quick fix, or I'm looking to heal the system. If you're looking to heal the system, it's not a quick fix. So you have to tune into the system. You have to tune into the person. So this is all what we're talking about. This is Yefei Toya v'Yefei Mara. This is Pshat. I can have all the Ramach mitzvahs, all the Shabbat mitzvahs, but there's no Yoifi. There's no beauty. There's no integration. I'm afraid of the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not afraid of Hashem. Very big difference. Okay. Teufus, Tafasta. This is what's called after the what's it called when the encore after no, encore. Hatzlacha Rabba. You could wave again, Rabbi Yaakov. You could wave.
Dessert. Afikomen.
Im lo seidi la chayafa banashim. If you're not using the copies, put them back here. If you are, just bring it back for the next year, please. I bekomme zurück, weil letzte Mal hat man genommen und es ist fast nicht gewesen genug für die Eulam. Ihr kennt them, es ist Tofschen Tazayin, es ist da bei euch, ja. Was meint ihr? Der erste Nacht, ich kenne es. Wo hat ihr die Verbringen, Purim? In Schul? Ich glaube nicht. Ich gucke da noch einmal, aber was macht er? Versteht? Ah, ist er Mitzvah? Ah, schöne Rakatschove. Er beguckt, hat auf Teitz, hat Sefer Kloli, hat Teure war Mitzvah. Ist dort nach Oisig bei Mitzvah, die Mitzvah hatte die Mekaides. Es ist ein Chiddisch von Rakatschove. Ein Teitz von Rakatschove. Es ist ein Sugi in Sukkot, auf Chofhei. Right. In Teusvis und der Nahen, dort sind da zwei Schittes, darf Chofhei. Ja, ob es Mamisch also, es ist toll, ihr bekennt dann, im Efschele Kayim Schneie. Either you say something, even if you could do both, you're potter. Out of kasha. Out of kasha. Out of kasha. Out of Teitzach. So if you could do both, you have to do both. So there's a Tosfos and Aran over there, they discuss it. Some say even if you could do both, you don't have to. Because it's a mitzvah. What's as far as Samachloikus, you have to understand. Like the Rakatshava, it's Geschmack, because it's kailal all the other mitzvahs. So even if you could do both, you already have it. But still, you don't have it in the same way, so it's not so pashut. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because Hashem is making you do the mitzvah. When it's chishuv lasas mitzvah. Yeah. Okay. Ja. Kann, aber ich glaube nicht, aber lass mich gucken.
Rabbi, I was once by Seder, by also people from Gateshead, you know, they're so refined, so beautiful. And the whole Seder stuck in my mind. You know, they were all giving Pasuk in the Agoda.
Yeah.
And it was like 3-4 hours, and I was so young, and I was so inspired by this. And once I had my own Sidorim, I would try to repeat it. And what a failure I was. Every single time.
You have guests, maybe also.
You know, it's actually one Pesach. I suddenly have two malachim coming to my house. One was Rabbi Naor, you know,
Betzalel Naor.
Comes in Pesach night. I didn't invite him, you know, we didn't expect nobody, you know. Somebody comes to malachim, comes him and his friend. And I said, Rabbi, what he said, can we be part of your Seder? And they said,
called the fit, eh?
Just before Seder.
They heard Koldich and they took it seriously.
And, sure. So he was part of our Seder, and the kids didn't behave the usual one because they had like little bit, you know.
Years are covered.
Years are covered, and we had phenomenal Seder.
The name of the game? Guest.
That's Guest is the name of the game. Yes. Big.
Thank you. What a compliment.
But in this case, but he came as a surprise to us. I don't know. Maybe it was stuck in his corner or whatever. I was so grateful to him because he made our Seder beautiful.